Question 17 is a lot of words and a lot of letters, but ultimately they would call this a literal equation. And according to the HiSet, again, they're thinking this is a hard question. So as we look at this question, let's read. The total surface area of S of a right circular cone with a radius of r and a slant height of L is given by the equation S equals, that's pi r parenthesis r plus L. That is a lot. But thankfully, they're giving us the equation. So this is the piece that I need to know right here. And at the end of the day, they're asking us to get what? Which equation correctly represents the slant height? So remember, let's key in on these words. If I say slant height, in which letter represented the slant height? That's this L. At the end of the day, they want you to solve this equation and get the letter L all by itself. That's the math. That's what they're looking for. Let's go back and talk about just basic equations. I am a huge fan of two-step equations if you've ever been in my classroom. Two-step equations is just a process, right? It's a process for how we move things from the right and left on these equations. So the two things I need you to know is typically when you're doing a two-step, you're trying to get this x all by itself because that tells you what the answer is. In our question, we're going to be getting the letter what? L all by itself. So the process will always follow the same sets of rules. So we know that if we need to get rid of a -4, I'm supposed to add 4. If I need to get rid of a multiply by 3, I need to divide by 3. And so what you do to one side, you must do to the other side. The equal sign separates the two sides. Is this that easy? No, I know that. But I want to make sure we have those clear steps working with us. Some literal equations might be relatively easy. On your screen right now, we just have to get one thing alone. So in this first question, the letter P by itself, which means I'll need to move the Z to the other side. And if it's being added, well, opposite will subtract. In the second question, we're trying to get the letter Y by itself. Remember, if nothing is written in between two letters, you're supposed to know that it's really being multiplied. And the opposite of multiply is to correct, to divide. So this answer would be y equals r over x. Those are simple ones. Again, the one we have, a lot more complex. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get it alone. I'm going to write it pi r, and then this is a parenthesis R plus. I'm going to go with a more of a capital L so it doesn't look like a 1, just to help people out. Things that I think you're supposed to know. Again, this is being multiplied. This is being multiplied. So in the past, I would tell kids, oh, this is a distribute question where I have to multiply to the inside. We're not going to do that here because the goal is we're trying to get everything on this side gone so we just have the letter L. So to me, if these things are being multiplied, I'm going to first come in and divide. And for me, the divide is just the fraction bar. If I divide by pi r, what would happen? Well, any number divided by itself, so pi is really 3.14. And if I divide it by 3.14, it becomes the number 1. Any number for r, if it's 5 divided by 5, it becomes 1. So the reason why we divide is they're going to then cancel out. But the rule says if I do something to one side, I must do something to the other side. And at this point, I have no idea what that's going to be, but I'm just going to write it just like it says. S over pi r is now equal to r plus L. I can drop the parentheses because really we said this was a 1, and 1 times anything is still going to be just a 1. So really, you don't have to write the parenthesis. Maybe that's an aspect of why they think it's a harder question too. The next piece, again, we're getting L by itself, which means I now need to get rid of this R. And if it's a positive R, to get rid of a positive R, I want a minus. Okay, I just can't stick it anywhere. I have to say, okay, this is an idea. This is some kind of number. And now I'm going to minus R. And hey, we got L by itself. Now, that would be great if that answer was over here, but it's not. So let's just talk about, again, the logic piece when you're looking here. First, notice themes. I got an r squared. I got an r squared, an r squared, an r squared. Don't see that yet, but we're going to talk about that here in a second. You see the pi sometimes, and the top ones, they have no denominators, no thing being divided. I know I clearly have something being divided. So part of my logic is going to kind of cancel out these top two, and I'm looking closely at the ones at the bottom. So then I'm just paying attention to the theme. I clearly minus that r over. So it's not r minus s, it's s minus r, just like these top ones were showing. And I'm telling you right now that this is the answer. But I want to show you the math. The math says we need to have a common denominator. And because there's nothing down here, the only thing I need to do is add a pi r to the bottom to match. Well, then I have to add a pi r to the top. And at that point, your final answer is s over pi r minus, notice that you have two r's on top, r squared pi over pi r, and that equals length. So you may not see it like that still, but all they've said then is, hey, on the top, s minus r squared pi, because they have the same bottom, I can just write that over pi r. Again, a difficult question. Paying attention to the tricks, the themes, how am I moving things over? Is it a positive or a negative? Hopefully, that's going to give you some answers without all the stress of the math. Take your time. You're doing a great job. Keep up the hard work.